Good day, good evening, good night, good morning, and wherever you are, welcome to the Black Cauldron. I'm so excited to be here. This has now become the highlight of really my week during quarantine. And if we get out of quarantine anytime soon, I hope the Black Cauldron will be on and popping. Unfortunately, this week I didn't have a drink, like alcoholic beverage. I decided to have tea again. I need to fix that. But before I get any further, let me introduce my co-hostesses with the mostesses. We have Deb at Shackle 52. What's going on, Lady Deb? How are you?
I am well. I am thinking about this 24/7, and I guess that's a good thing. But and
Exactly.
like you, this has really become my go-to for getting through the time that we're locked in.
I've stopped myself from starting to read The Prison of Azkaban because I'm like,
I'm ahead of you.
let
I've
me
already
just,
started. So
I know, I said, let me just keep pace because I might have to go back and then go back again because then one of you would say something and I'd be like, did I miss that? Gotta go back. I gotta go back. So Deb is our resident professor here. She got the credentials and paperwork. She's legit, okay, people. And we have Janina from Far Ohio. How are you doing, Janina?
I am good. I too am super excited and thinking about this all the time. And I want to talk about it to everyone who will listen. I find myself like interjecting Harry Potter into every conversation I'm
Don't do that.
having
Don't do
everywhere.
that. Don't be
It,
that person.
I'm so that person. I can't even help it. And, thankfully I work with a lot of Harry Potter fans, so it's not so insufferable for them. They actually enjoy it too. But yeah, so
Let me let me just say that in real life, sometimes I quote Dumbledore. I do.
it's listen, I actually my very best, longest, dearest friend is going through some things, and I sent her the quote that says from Dumbledore that what is it about happiness can be found in even the darkest of times if one only remembers to turn the light on.
Oh, that's not my favorite Dumbledore quote though, but
It's one of mine. I like it because you know what? You can put it anywhere. I do want to ask y'all, how are your new writing utensils? Have you
oh
gotten a chance to
yes,
play
yes,
with
yes,
we
them
thank
we
and
you.
love
literally have a
them?
quill. Janina sent
Yes,
us quills, so I
yes,
have
and the letter.
I
I
literally
expect.
have a feather sticking out of my pens, and I love pens, by the way. I have tons
I
of pens
know
in
you
different
do, and I expect
of
handwritten letters with
stationery,
the quill. Just saying.
Oh,
and
see,
I have a pot of ink.
But do
Actually,
they work? That's
they
what I
do
really
work.
want to do.
They do work, and I was able to write stylishly. It's funny because I've been avoiding obsessing about fountain pens because it is a it is an obsession my father has passed on to his children. Like it's just one thing my children and I can bond over television and stationery. And I've been like, you know what? Let me not mess with fountain pens because they're expensive. Ballpoint pens are reasonable.
right,
So
right.
this quill, it's probably might restart this tradition, and I don't want. I want to keep some coins in my pocket.
It
Okay.
doesn't have to be super expensive. I learned that because my mom was sharing with me that she had a fountain pen that she used in high school that actually belonged to her grandmother. And she was saying that she wished she still had it. So I wanted to try to find her something similar that was nice. And you know what? It wasn't too bad. It was, you can, and then I got one for myself too, not knowing if I was going to like it. So I just tried to find myself a cheaper version.
Okay.
The pen that you saw that, Realz said I had a bougie pen. Which is really why you got one too, because I want us all to be bougie together. But I mean, it was under
I was
$20.
I was literally at Mont Blanc and didn't buy a pen. So I
Thank
need to
you.
be logged. I was literally at Mont Blanc.
You
And
see, Deb knows the name. That is the
Yeah,
name you should be talking
and
about
yeah.
and
when you're talking about fountain
and
pen.
ever since I got home, I kept thinking, why didn't you buy pens? You were literally at Mont Blanc. But you know, you're old and you don't think.
That's all right.
That is that. Those are the holy grails of fountain pen. Mont Blanc.
I know, I
Yeah.
know.
Parker is a poor man's pen, but it do a good one. It does do a sturdy. And then you have cross pens. I'm telling you, and you have there's
Hmm.
another Oh my God, I am forgetting the name now, but we're not here. We are here, hopefully, to conclude the book to the Chamber of Secret. And ever since Deb has told us that the Chamber of Secret book two is basically the gateway into the entire Harry Potter series plot, it has now become this treasure trove of like we are in there analyzing every sentence, going through every plot point,
Everything.
and it becomes this thing like, oh my God, like we totally missed all of this. Though we in the back of our mind it's been there, but it's just like, oh my God, you're right. Like there was just nothing that is mentioned that is just except the car. I think the car is about the only thing
Right.
that doesn't return in later series. But just where the car was, the perhaps the path that the car cleared is the path is the final path that Harry takes. That's just in my mind. I'm just saying that, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. So today, hopefully, we can get to the plot, and well, we're supposed to deal with the plot because I think we addressed a lot of things, bullying. But I think many of the things that we discussed last episode, it will definitely come back in here because they all play into the plot. So in book two, basically the plot revolves around the Chamber of Secret. There is supposedly a hidden, in many people's mind, including many of the learned people's mind. Though we are aware that Hogwarts have a tons of secret places and whatever, most people think a Chamber of Secret cannot exist. I mean, it's a magical school, but hey, I guess there's some limit to the magic, right? Like a Chamber of Secret should not exist, and supposedly a monster, isn't it, placed by Salazar Slytherin, one of the original founders of the school. We learned in this book, I think, that the four founders, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, Godric Gryffindor, and Salazar Slytherin, started Hogwarts School. There was some disagreement, mainly supposedly around the idea that should the school allow Muggle-born magic students into the school or only allow those from magical parents to enter. And because the rift was so beyond limit that it got to the point where Salazar Cinema was just like, F all y'all, I'm gonna go on my own. Where he goes, we don't know. We don't. That's never investigated. But he creates this chamber of secret, put his monster in there with the intention that his true heir will come into being and will reopen the chamber and rid the school of all unworthy people, supposedly the mudbloods, which they are called mudbloods, which are magical muggle-born people. So I think last time we got into not a fierce discussion, a rather substantial discussion about the whole mudblood, pure blood, half blood, etc. paradigm within this whole magical world and how it plays implication into today's world, in terms of race and colorism, perhaps to a certain extent, but mainly race and ethnicity ideology that people start to spout, thinking that one person or group of people are better than others. But I think one interesting thing that happens in the plot here is that though this is the idea surrounding the whole quote unquote mudblood, muggle born versus pure blood is ever it's permeating throughout the society, right? Because we see people use this word, though people are like, oh my God, aghast. Adults don't step into the fray for the most part, right? Like they're just like, oh, children say this, whatever. But the idea that a monster can exist to wipe the school of these supposedly unworthy people is a bridge too far in most people's mind. It's just like, no, this cannot happen. And we can also see this happen out in real life, right? When people talk about these sort of like, as if when people talk about these racial, ethnic ideologies and wanting to X group is bad, whatever the case may be, as if the likely conclusion to said discussion isn't to annihilate people. You understand what I'm saying? As if these are just
Right.
harmless. As, hey, we don't like this group of people. Okay, that's just an opinion. Well, those opinions, and throughout, we've seen this, and we don't even have to go to the 1930s. We know in the 1990s. We know even later on, we have ethnic, they call them ethnic cleansing then. But we have these other things going on in Europe and in Africa, and to a certain extent, other places silently, where people are attempting to eliminate groups of people based on just physical characteristics are, deeming this group a certain group, they don't want to be a part of the larger society. So, and this plays out in the magical world for children to see and deal with. But somehow it's not the thing that sort of like permeates when we talk about Harry Potter, I guess. It's, interesting. But this is largely the plot of book two. So my question to you, ladies, as we go into the plot, like, what did you think of the plot as you were reading this book? Not from in that moment, right? In the moment, not like as we've read the books, the series a million and one time. Like, how does the plot stand out for you in and of itself as just that book?
Well, I told you before, this is my least favorite book. And, before we started having this conversation about it, I really didn't like it. I just was like, I got to read this one again. Because, as we said, there's a lot that's going on here. And it's at times kind of even feels all over the place. I thought it was weird, and I never really knew why that it felt weird, but it is pretty weird to think that that the center of this plot really is a snake going through the pipes in a school, and nobody knows. Nobody can get to it. Nobody can stop it. Nobody knows what it is. And then here we have this, 12-year-old girl find something in a library book. But we've got like the most powerful wizard in the world who, gets sent away from the school, but can't solve the problem. Like, it just, I don't know. I didn't, for that reason, I didn't like this book so much. And I don't like the story. I still don't. But I am able to now appreciate it for what it truly is and how it fits into the entire series. It is funny in parts, and you get to laugh at Lockhart and whatnot. But damn, is he ever an idiot? And, just makes all these messes and leaves it up to somebody else to clean up. Almost always a child, which is also something that happens throughout the entire series that I'm sure we'll get into more. But I don't know. It's even for a magical world, this is a little bit far-fetched to think that you have this monster in this place and nobody knows what it is or can get to it. Just seems really, really weird. Like, seriously, the only person the only being that can tell us exactly what it is a giant spider the size of a small elephant who refuses to talk. That's out there.
A giant talking spider who can talk,
right,
but just won't tell you what the deal is.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I remember thinking it was highly entertaining simply because there was always something going on. In addition to, right from the very beginning, you can see how it is such a modern children's book in that something happens right from the very beginning. Which is what you need to keep kids reading. From the time Dobby appears and causes all this mayhem until they're in the flying car and then they crash to the Whomping Willow. So much is going on in this book that really kind of makes you just see it as a straight on adventure story. And that's what I did the first time I read it. I laughed at Lockhart. I thought he was such a great buffoon. When you listen to it and Jim Dale does his Harry,
oh, whoopsie.
Because it is just so hysterically funny. And it's got a little play on the modern celebrity, like with the books and the women all falling at his feet and, him doing his signings and the crowds. And so you really get a take on, so many things that are in the contemporary world played out in this magical world. And then you've got all this, you got Harry, the only one who can hear the voices from the wall, and you've got the dueling. So much happens in this book that's just from one just a page turner from one thing to the next. And it is only after you finish the series, and maybe even if you read, you have to do some reading about the series, that you see just how much is really connected to what's going to happen later. Certainly, I didn't see that. Of course, the first time you read it's like, oh, this is so much going on. It wasn't my favorite, but I didn't dislike it because, I liked the adventure. I liked the fact that it was a page turner. But yeah, I think it was definitely a deliberate misdirection for people who were reading the series. I think Rowling deliberately made it seem like, oh, this is just a plot-driven storyline and it's going to keep everybody reading and they're going to miss everything that they're going to need later on to figure out what's going on.
And boy, did she do it in a brilliant way.
I wonder if perhaps this was not the first book she wanted to write. Right? In many ways, right? But, at least put some of the things in it. Because there were two things that, I can't really think of liking. The book that I think I loved the most was the fourth book. And I think that's because of the task element of it, and that's like, a trope. Like, that was such a Greek.
It's a fairy tale trope.
But fairy tale trope, and also going back to Greek, right? Hercules' task, etc. And this young child being put upon, the David and Goliath, where because everything Harry sort of like stumbled into stuff, right? Here now he's in the moment, and everyone has to acknowledge that this child has a Herculean task to complete. But the second book, it was funny, Lockhart bothered me. But he really bothered me the most when I saw the movie and Kenneth Branagh played him. And I was just like, I don't know what it was. It's just like, oh my God, like, whatever you are, you need to stop. Like, I just need to not see you because you are such a problem in this whole thing. But two things that stood out to me in the book when I was reading it and when I reread it a second time was Draco and Moaning Myrtle, because Moaning Myrtle is often overlooked as a like a plot device or like some joke, whatever, but she's rather integral to part of the idea we keep talking about, the bullying and the abuse, because Moaning Myrtle dies because of bullying and being abused. And Draco, the thing that I thought was rather odd was that Hermione, Ron, and Harry literally thought that Draco was capable of such evil very in the beginning. Yes. This is who they thought about. And I'm just like, he's only 12, right? That you are thinking about in this world that these children have somehow understood that their classmate can be evil and will be willing and capable of doing something so heinous about this. And that they seem somewhat concerned about this more so than teachers, because everyone dismisses this whole thing as folklore. It's not real. Like whatever. The Professor Binns shouldn't be a teacher. I'm sorry. I have nothing against ghosts, but you have no interest in either teaching. You didn't even have any interest in your own life. That you literally die and didn't even know it. No, I'm just putting that out there, okay? For new listeners, please note that Realz has a lot of issues, and he drops them in ever so often. Okay, number one, but not number one of the many, Professor Benjamin Professor. But that struck me that that they thought Draco was capable of such evil, and the fact is that Draco is capable of such evil, and that bothered me. That a 12-year-old kid would have this much, whether it's being parroted from his parents and whatever the case may be, that he desired, that from that age, he wanted to show that, like, I wish I knew where the Chambers of Secret was. Because he has far more information about the Chamber of Secret than anyone else knows, right? And he would have known that this thing is probably more than likely, he knows it to be real, right? Because of his household, right? His father and whatever the case may be.
Right.
And they were very much involved. So this is what, that they wish to do harm to a fellow student, other students. Because, the reality of the situation is that how quickly the idea of half-blood and muggle blood becomes so eliminated, because Harry is not a target, right? Because his father is a wizard, pure blood wizard, right? But they
Right.
have no problem with, the idea that he's half blood, whatever the case may be. But when he has children now with another wizard, a pure blood, that whole muggle blood situation is eliminated, right? Like we don't talk about muggle blood for their offspring, right? It becomes a non-issue then. But how quickly that eliminates, that this is why it's racism and this is such fuckery. It makes no sense. And I guess it can't make any sense. That's why people keep going on about it in a rational manner. But the other issue for me was Moaning Mortal. That a student died at this school. And that's, to be honest, y'all are doing magic. You literally have weapons of mass destruction in your hand. But so she died. And she's roaming around the bathroom, and no one deals with this issue. You know what I mean? Like she goes to moan, to Hans Olive Hornbeak, whatever that woman, I think that's her name, who caused her to be in the bathroom. But no one asked this ghost how you died, what was happening. You know what I mean? Like
Just put an out of order sign on the bathroom.
Exactly.
Out of order. All right, leave it be.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Don't ask any questions
left
here.
To literally moan the toilet, and being the U bed. This is. Reading that a second time, I was just like, what? Like, no. And that, and we're supposed to somehow, and everybody, Moaning Mortal is annoying to everybody. Oh, my commander, it's just Moaning Mortal. Forget that bitch. Like, whatever. Like, it's just like, but I'm like, this is insane. Like, that is speaking to something. I don't know whether it was just for kids, use and whatever the case may be. But, my problem was with the adult. This girl was killing it. First of all, supposedly a spider actually killed her. Were there any signs any spider bit her? I did something to her? You don't have any of that signs, do you? Right? Whatever it is. But this girl, her parents, you didn't deal with this situation appropriately. She's now left to be in a bathroom, moaning, and everyone thinks she's ridiculed when she was just minding her business and die at the school. And no one can give a real, because the teachers would have known that it wasn't the spiders, right? Spider that did it. They would have known that. It was just a way to shut up the situation and move on. But I'm just like, this happened under your watch, and y'all did nothing about this situation. Y'all just left this girl in the bathroom, put up order sign. She's flooding the place, screaming for attention, because that's literally what she wants, right? Attention, someone to take her seriously, and that's it. Boom, she's done.
To go back to what you said about Draco, I just immediately the song from South Pacific, you have to be taught, you have to be carefully taught, taught to hate. And I think that in a lot of ways, Draco has been taught by his family, his father particularly. And so he is just, and you mentioned that he is parroting what he has heard at home. But his father has been relentless about, early in the book, his father is mocked him that he's allowed this Muggle girl to surpass him in school. And so he has built up some animosity. It may not be appropriate for a 12-year-old, but it's been applied to him so that he really is, kind of growing into this kind of real highly negative young person, because this is all he's been taught. He's not been taught to see anything positive about being in a situation where there are all kinds of people and that creatures and people in various stages are all equal. He has not been taught that at all.
Well, I feel sorry for him though, because to me, he is messy. And how that is dealt with as we get there, it's such an inappropriate response. How that whole thing is concluded. He is concluded, because I'm just like, this kid is dangerous. He is dangerous. Like, too many times we have seen this, and then that whether I am not interested in the idea that, I get it, being carefully taught and whatever the case may be, and to a certain extent, But you see, that excuse is only available to certain people, right? Because
Right.
because in real world, the white um subjects of crime, they get to use that excuse, right? I grew up in a
Mhm.
troubled home, etc.,
Right.
etc. That's not available to people of color, right?
No.
That
No.
is seen as a pathology, right?
Yeah. You're
This
just
was
low moral character.
exactly, this is pathology for people of color, and for
Right.
Draco, it's for people, white people. It becomes sociology, socialization. Yeah, oops, yeah. See, we can reform you and whatever the case. Because we know this, like the stats are out there, right? Like people of color do not commit crime more than non-people of color, but it's how the justice system treats said people that
Yeah.
makes the difference. But for me, I mean, Draco is. I mean, he's a hated character, an annoying character, and I guess he's supposed to present as some sort of foil to Harry. But the crazy thing, I've never actually seen him as that, like as some foil to Harry. I'm just like, kid, you are so unnecessary to the plot. Like all throughout the series, I was just like, God, I don't need to deal with this kid. Can we see somebody else? Because I mean, he was neither clever, he was neither smart. He was just this person to sort of like antagonize. He seemed to be, and in many cases, he seemed to be more so an antagonist for Ron, not Harry. In my mind, that's how I read it, right? Because here are these two people supposedly equal, in the some of magical world. They're in both pure blood people, but every time he gets at Harry, he gives a jab at Ron, talking about the money and the class issue. And to me, okay, that makes sense because to me, it's like, I don't know why you're going after Harry because you got to know Harry. The reason why you're trying to go after Harry is because your pal tried to kill him as a baby. It's like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just to me, it's just like, why you hate Harry because he's popular? Then do something, then, boo. Like, Harry isn't popular because, like, even though he came to the magical world as, the legendary Harry Potter, what Harry keeps doing every year requires him to, you know what I mean? It gives him some notoriety. He's on the Quidditch team. He is doing all of the things that popular people do. He's part of a popular sport, and he's winning these things. So to me, it's like
Well,
Draco's.
Draco's not a bad Quidditch player. He's just not a very clean Quidditch player.
Listen,
And
Draco's an asshole.
right.
Period. He's just an asshole.
And it's also he's representative of the people who have more influence than they should have, because that's how he gets to be on the team. He's not, and that's how his father buys brooms for everybody and make sure that they all get on the team and that he can get on the team. But and he's also, his father's on the board of governors of the school, so he has all of this outside power, and everybody knows kids like that who, they learn at an early age to throw their family's weight around.
Yeah.
And so he, while he's annoying, no question about him being annoying and not, really not a person who has accomplished a darn thing on his own. But we can see this is the direction he's going to go in. And we find, we'll see down the road that this is who he is, that he is very limited and he's a covering for his own insecurities.
Can we talk about the fact that, Quidditch? I read somewhere someone was mentioning, that Rowling was making up the rules about Quidditch as she go along. I don't think so. She's been very consistent about the rules in and of of how the game is played. My problem is the inconsistency on how the game is being played. Like, we can have mismatched broom speed. That's okay. We can have Rogan bludgers running around the place and shit that ain't supposed, like, because it's supposedly the magical. Because I've always hated the idea about the broomstick. I'm just like, wow, girl, you went back to like the 1500s with this old broomstick. Like, yeah, right? Like them being on a broomstick is such a crazy idea. That was one of the first things that stood out to me. A broomstick.
But I don't understand. What did you want them to ride? You wanted them to just fly, like just have the natural ability to fly? Is that what you would prefer?
Apparently, flying on your own with a broomstick accessory is a real problem, so maybe not.
I like them on brooms. I like it. I feel like it's right.
But I know what Deb is gonna say. Deb is gonna say, and this is probably the answer. it is one of those popular tropes that seems to stand out, and it works for children's imagination.
Mm-hmm.
That being on a broomstick is easy enough to understand. My problem is that when they start talking about the Comet 500 and it's just like it looks like a broom sail. Like it is. I don't understand it.
Oh, but it handles so much better.
We're gonna clip twigs and all. Just like.
But when you're into a sport, you just love. Remember, like very at the beginning when Hermione sends him the broomstick care kit.
Yep.
Right.
Or maybe that's the next book. But then
No.
Yeah, I think it's
No. It is the third book. It's the third book.
But I mean, when you're into a sport, you just everything you live, breathe, and you're into it. You go and visit whatever the latest piece of equipment or latest outfit. The look of can we mention tennis rackets?
Right.
I know you were gonna.
They all look the same.
No, we know they don't all look the same. But
they look the same enough.
Well, but I mean,
people obsess over. Is this a 93-inch face, or people when they are into a sport? I think she got that just right, and
I do too.
Sporting culture. I think
it's true. Realz. I mean, like, so
I mean, I
my
can
son.
Understand that,
but look, my son plays hockey, right? I didn't know what the hell a flex number was on a hockey stick. Look, hockey sticks look like hockey sticks. They are all shaped the same. You get them cut to the player, there's not a standard shape because it has to fit the size of the person using it. Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, when little Micah got a new hockey stick, it made a difference. I didn't really think it was going to make a difference. The one he started with was a hand-me-down. I thought he wanted his own. So, all right, got him his own. It really made a difference. It truly makes a difference. So in the sense of, everybody has a broom, but sometimes, you get the best that you can afford. That's how sports are. It really is.
Well,
it really is.
I'm not disputing that per se, but
the differences aren't always visible.
Well, true. Okay, I will give you that. So Harry got the Nimbus 3000 or whatever it is, 2000, whatever it is. Professor McGonagall got the school to buy him that, right? Like that didn't come out of his money, but yet they left everything on this clean sweep, right? And then and no one addresses that issue, right? Because first of all, Harry wasn't even supposed to be on the team, right? Because he was too young.
McGonagall was tired of losing.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
all for that. So she bent the rules for that.
Listen, she pulled a Malfoy. But since she only did it with one player, and he isn't an asshole, or supposed to be, it's viewed as okay. But she didn't do anything other than what Draco's father did.
Listen to me. She pulled all the strings that she went, and the school shelled out money for that.
That's right.
But then we're supposed to turn around and look at Draco because he got the whole team the right broom. And all he needs is to get a spot on the team. Look,
listen,
I can't be mad at that. Because I know. Because my thing is that, because here's the thing, it makes a difference on the playing pitch, whatever it is, in the skies. Even though it seemed to be, the Slytherins were a good team anyway. They were an excellent team to begin with. Harry's motivation for playing this game is what kind of stands out for him, right? Is that it's that he wants this more than anything else, because this is the thing. He is unencumbered by Harry Potter on the ground. On the ground, he's Harry Potter. In the sky, he is a sneak.
Well, and it's the one thing that he knows he's good at, and he doesn't question. Like, he knows that he's good at this. Every other thing he kind of questions throughout.
It don't require brain power.
Yeah, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to be able to execute it properly? But this is instinctive to him, and he's good, so he can be. It's like the first thing that he's found in his entire little young life that he is really good at it. It's all his, and he's in control of it. No one has really given it to him. He did it, and it worked. If we think about it, when he has we can call it a Quidditch tryout, he doesn't even know what's happening. He's just trying to snatch that remember all. And McGonagall's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's like, she found the next Lionel Messi or
No,
Roger
she found the next Charlie
Federer.
Weasley. That's what she found. She found Charlie. He was like, she found Charlie, and she was just like, okay.
Even when they play Quidditch in the Chamber of Secrets, we have that fool Lockhart who manages to get himself.
Oh God.
Somebody
needs to go to jail for that, Deb. Every time I read that, somebody needs to go to jail.
That was just really, but Madame Pomfrey, who is able to fix a magnitude of sins, she manages to help him grow his bones back. But that is just, this is again, he inserts himself in here. This is almost too 2020 right now, as far as I'm concerned. Those people that does the wrong thing, and people are even more injured than they were than when he fell down, when he fell out the sky.
Yeah.
It is really kind of just shows you again how dangerous Lockhart is.
And Lockhart,
how dangerous Hogwarts is.
Over and over.
Nobody said, you know what, this is really, he's out here, doing more damage.
One time.
And this is
only
why I know I can't be at Hogwarts, because my ass would have been setting up for Lockhart. I would have seen him outside in the corridor.
Only one time in this entire book do we hear an adult acknowledge that he's full of shit. And that's when Ginny is taken into the Chamber of Secrets, and they're calling this meeting, and Lockhart walks in, and they tell him, well, finally you get your shining moment, you can solve this problem. And then he leaves, and McGonagall goes, okay, right, we got rid of him. That is the only acknowledgement that we really get from an adult in this book, saying that he's full of shit.
Well, Snape's the way in which it is described that Snape looks at him.
But he doesn't actually speak on it.
Well, Snape doesn't need to talk. We know Snape.
Right?
Snape looked like he's about to, I think they said, I think he's described he's about to murder someone. He looks like murder was in his eye. But but the crazy thing, and this goes to what you're always saying, Deb, is that Lockhart is oblivious to all of this.
Is he though? I don't know if he is. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know if he really thinks, because especially in the end when he finally says, did you think I did all that myself? Of course I didn't. I had to, erase their memories. I think he is hopeful that maybe he'll try something and it might actually work. But I don't think he expects it to. I really don't. I don't think he's oblivious at all. I think he's just an asshole also, but a different type of asshole than the Malfoys. And he's all about him, and he doesn't care what his misgivings do to other people. How many times has he almost hurt people, killed them?
He's not on the scene for any of these things, because when the situation is apparent that that okay, we do have the Chamber of Secret is real and acknowledge someone allegedly went in there. Right? He attempts to run. So he doesn't even attempt to do anything.
But that's the only time. But if you think about in the beginning when he lets those stupid little Cornish pixies all over the place, he's tries to get them up. It doesn't work. And he's like, oh, well, class is over here. You guys do it.
Right,
Harry's arm. He's like, oh, let me do this. Ah, shit, I screwed it up again. Well, you better go see Madame Pomfrey. But the good thing is it doesn't hurt anymore. It's always something I think he's very much aware that he don't know crap but memory charms.
And he's used to sliding out of situations rather than having to be accountable.
Exactly. And no one holds him accountable.
Nobody.
Learn the vocabulary, sliding on out of things, or we're going to move right along. And,
exactly.
And he's learned how to utilize that vocabulary and just slide on out of things. And most people figure oh, he's useless, and they let him out. They let him off the hook.
Mm-hmm.
And, it just, nobody has any expectations of him after one or two.
Well, and good-looking people get away with things. That's just the facts. Good-looking people they are forgiven more. This is science. I'm not even, there have been multiple studies done about this.
That's
A,
absolutely
a
true.
so-called ugly person and a so-called good-looking person do the same exact thing, and the ugly person will always be judged harsher. Always.
You know, that's
Yep.
probably what it is that really bothered me with Lockhart when I saw Kenneth Branagh playing him. And fun fact, Kenneth Branagh and Emma Thompson used to be married. Emma Thompson played
Right.
Professor Trelawney. But,
And he used to be married to Helena Bonham Carter too,
oh,
right?
really? Oh, too. She should have stick with Kenneth, though, because,
I think
anyway.
so. I think
Um,
that's what broke up Emma Thompson and him and Emma Thompson.
oh, they've got all the stories now.
I
She's
think. I mean,
got
I
all
think.
the tea.
I think.
Um, when I saw Kenneth, I'm just like, God, this is it? No, he ain't do. I ain't believing shit coming out of this
So
man's
who would
mouth.
have
Like,
been your ideal Lockhart? Like, who
I'm
did you
not
want to play
sure.
him?
I'm not sure who it would have been though. But I mean, it's just like because I was with Ron all the time because I think Ron was just like he's lying. This man is full of shit. If this
Yeah,
man,
Ron
and
got it.
Yeah.
I
Ron
mean,
got it
Ron is
right
one of the
away.
people who don't pay attention to shit, right? Like Ron is like, feed me, I'm good. Like, where's the food at? Like, I'm starving constantly. That Ron knew, and that's one of the worst things when you're an incompetent teacher, and even the students get it. You know what I mean? That they just not even they don't even pay attention to you. But but as we're here, we're back to the chamber itself. So one of the things that struck me with the chamber that that we find out in the dueling scene that Harry is a Parselmouth and that he can speak to Snake, an issue that we dealt in the first part of this book. But he is hearing what we find out is the snake. He doesn't understand that he's mentioned that scene when everyone acknowledges he's a Parselmouth. He says, "I can speak a language and I don't even know that I'm speaking this language." That to me, my being able to, I spoke to a snake one, but I just thought, that just chalked it up to the other weird shit that I've been doing. You know what I mean? Like before anything happened.
Well, and he
And I
didn't
have
know that
issues,
it was a real. He didn't know it was another
right?
language, though.
But that's what I'm saying that that he not only he knew he once he heard a snake, understood the snake, and the snake seemed to speak to him, right?
Hmm.
He understood that to happen once. I also have an issue with the how people remember that scene that he supposedly set the snake on Justin Finch Fletchley
Hmm.
because he didn't do anything like that. Like literally, the snake stopped, right? And there were two
Right.
teachers there. Well, let's say one, because, and mind you, it was a teacher who instructed another student to go set a snake on another student. But we're not even going to deal with that madness. But the way in which everyone describes the scene was as if Harry set the snake on Justin, and I'm just like, the snake stopped. Harry said something to the snake. You heard past the mouth, and so that was a problem. And then you perceive that he about to set the snake on Justin, which was crazy. But the issue that bothers me, what we're going back with this whole snake, was that he's hearing the snake, right? But no one else, and suppose if he understands what happened. But the problem, I think, which is the problem with the plot, is that no one is hearing the sound. It is true that they mightn't hear or be able to understand what is being said, but no one is hearing the snake sound. You get what I'm saying? Because
So you think that they should be able to hear like
They should be able to hear the
or
hissing
something?
they
or
should be
whatever.
hearing
They
something,
don't know
but
what
they're
it
not
means.
hearing anything. So, that might be, but we can say maybe magic, whatever the case may be. So that was something that struck me as we were going through like a fine tooth comb. It's just like, why is it that, like at the very least, and again, we have another issue we keep talking about, mental issue, right? Because immediately the presumption is that this isn't some kind of magic, right? This is a mental problem. Harry, even in the magical world, hearing voices ain't okay, right? That other people can't
Right.
hear. How
Right.
quickly this world resorts to a world which is defying physics and all concept of like probabilities and elemental structure and all this thing. It is moving between all this, like this is crazy fantastic worlds, right? But yet mental wellness, being supposedly quote unquote unwell, is a bridge too far in this world. And how quickly they're quick to cast people out who they perceive to be in and of it off their rockers, because it's one of the things that is one of the charges that is given to Dumbledore, right? Supposedly the greatest wizard of the age, but supposedly there's something wrong with him mentally, and so that's something I think we should sort of like see how often this comes up, because I think this is going to play into things. This is going to become a recurring theme, right? Harry's mental health is being questioned by the adults. That quickly adults doesn't think about this might be magical, something magical play. You know what I mean? That we can open our mind to all the endless possibilities. They never think about that. But
Well, but
so
also in addition to his mental state, I think there is still that reservoir of fear throughout the magical community that, any signs that anyone might have some connections to Voldemort or to anything that's from Slytherin, or even not Slytherin, the house, but connections to dark wizardry is another piece that will quickly come to the surface. That they immediately start talking about him having these dark abilities, and is he the heir of Slytherin? That whole kind of thing comes really quickly to the surface because it's never really gone away.
But my thing is that, but you never do anything about it though, because you literally, Slytherin is still a house. You let that
Right,
house exist. You never
right.
go in there and try to educate these people about the dangers of such attitude. So this is my problem with the whole idea of like mudblood. It's just like we might be quick to point to like the people like the Malfoy to say, oh, they hate mudblood. But I'm telling you, mudblood, people hating mudblood, it might be the very thing that separates the Weasley from everybody else. This seems to be the only conclusion that I have as to
Well, what
why
did
the
they say
Weasleys are
about
the
the
way they are.
Confederate statues? The
I'm so,
Confederate statues, it's heritage, not hate.
right.
It took years and years before people said, maybe it's not such a good idea to have these statues up to people who tried to overthrow the country. So, I think maybe we ought to
Jesus.
we ought to take a look at this. And it's interesting that and then I guess there are other traditions in British history that that Rowling is referring to, because they haven't had that kind of lionizing of Nazism, certainly in the same way that in America we have about Confederates. But they have, it's almost like we haven't done away with the Slytherin name and all of the symbols and things like that, because it's part of our history. And so we're just gonna just brush over the fact that he was kind of a dark wizard. So I think that's part of it. But these people kind of go along with things, and then when you start digging and finding out, oh my God, how we have a day dedicated to this, and then you realize that nobody has even paid it any attention. They
No
just
one
kind
said
of,
anything.
yeah.
To me, I think they might be far more
Anything, so somebody
comfortable
says,
with the
wait a
idea.
minute, yeah. hmm
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I said, it's like until somebody says, maybe this isn't such a great idea to be celebrating this.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think anybody has made that point about Slytherin House and all the symbols and everybody's, the snake symbols and all of those kinds of things.
Yes, because to me that was the thing that was crazy. It was just like, how you gonna be mad that he could speak Possible when, yeah, literally a teacher conjured the snake, right? Like,
But they talk about how it's not a common gift. Hardly no one around that they're
right.
aware of can do it anymore. So that it's only associated with dark wizards and dark magic. So people are afraid of it because they do associate it with dark things, and that's, I guess, reasonable. But I don't know.
I guess
It's important. It's just one more thing that is introduced that's important that we're going to see again later. Right. This is another little nugget of information. Even though we as the reader know already that Harry is a Parselmouth, this is something that continues.
But
we didn't have right up until the very end.
We didn't have a name for it until then, right? We just thought that we too assumed that everybody else can probably see too.
Sure. Yeah, that it was
I
just
know
like
I
this.
assumed that because
Mm-hmm.
when they were like, just like, oh, it's coming out, what? So here again, Hermione, my girl Hermione, who I have to say, that if we're gonna have no justice for people, no justice for Hermione, because we never once went home to her, we never once go on to what's going on with her. And you would think, right, seeing that she and Harry lives in the Muggle world, that they would have visited each other, or at very least Harry would go visit her.
Mm-hmm.
But that never happened, right? We just know that her parents are dentists, whatever the case may be. My girl Hermione is to the rescue. She's the only one in the library because
Always.
apparently,
Yes.
she's doing the work.
Because
And
girls
Right.
rule the world. Women are, we get
Ooh,
shit done.
even in the magical world too.
That's right.
So
Right.
Hermione did the work, and she was just like, okay, they kicked. She got the clues, and you see, I mean, I respect Dumbledore, but I have to say, Dumbledore knew immediately that the Chamber of Secret did exist because when
Right.
he tested Mrs. Norris, he realized that Mrs. Norris she was petrified, and the only
Right.
thing possible of doing that could have been a basilisk, right? And in direct
Dumbledore is a sneaky mofo, ain't he?
Yeah, but he says nothing,
Yeah.
right? He doesn't guard against. He doesn't do something, to do this, whatever the case may be, because we can see where this thing is going to, right? But so there's several other attacks, and in the I think the ultimate attack basically happens to Hermione and a Ravenclaw prefect, because Hermione figures out something that nobody wanted to admit. That this snake was getting ready to roam around in the bloody school like it was collecting names because she this is the thing people trying to think the snake was about because when she comes out of the library, just as she's leaving the library, she says to Penelope, girl, get a mirror, we can't walk around here no more, like we cannot be we have a virus now running around in the real world, but like she just like you have to take precaution, and her ability to be wise on time is what saved her life, basically. And she holds the secret in her hand, this book, whatever. But I have to say, Hermione has a habit of taking library books out to school and not returning them and ripping them out. Girl, stop holding information. Stop holding information. Though I would admit, apparently no one's
Nobody else
noticed.
looking at them.
Well, we
At
can't know
least I
what's
know they
missing if we
can't
don't know
read.
what's missing, right? We can't know what we don't know, right? If the book ain't there, we ain't gonna know that the book was never there, right? Because she figures out too. We would see later on. She figured out how to even get extra books from the library, even though they're not in the library. But so we see this, and then Harry and realizing that their victim is it. So a lot of times Harry's purpose is because it's personal, right? He has to go save his friend's sister and his friend's only sister. And we see the diary coming into place. Here is this object, before we even get to Timothy, here is an object that we are introduced to Voldemort in, not necessarily in the flesh, I guess. Right? When
Right.
Voldemort
Well, in
seemingly
the in the imagery, in
in
the
the
spirit.
imagery, right? In the
Uh-huh.
spirit, we're introduced to this young kid, and again, we see young children who out here trying to do major evil harm, right? Because, and we're introduced to a young Hagrid, and even as a young Hagrid, he's problematic. Out
Right.
here playing with spiders and whatever the case may be, and we get all of this information, and then ultimately we get to go to the Chamber of Secret, the thing that we think doesn't exist, and how very clear it was in basically in plain sight. It was in the very same bathroom that Moaning Mouse was running around in. And interestingly enough, she never sees the monster ever again. So she's roaming the bathroom every single time, except when the shit is coming out and trying to kill people. So she knows the rumblings of when, I died last time I heard this shit. I need to get the fuck out. I need to be in that U-Bend. I need to be in the toilet when shit happens again. Because like literally in the toilet. Because
Literally.
I know what happened when I heard Passamouth being spoken the last time. And
Get on out of the way.
get out and flush yourself down that toilet, girl. And actually we would see that scene again, right? Flushing yourself down the toilet, that comes back again.
Yes.
So we're in the Chamber of Secret, and we see this is where the adventure time comes in, right? Because Dumbledore is chased away from the school, and he leaves a warning. that he would never truly leave the school unless people believes that
Right.
he believes in him. And this comes to his rescue. We get a phoenix, we get a sword, we get a sardine hat, we get all kind of like magical. And Fox is badass. Let me just say, Fox is the animal you need to get in a magical kingdom. It's just the animal you need to get. It is. That shit isn't afraid of death. It isn't afraid of Avada Kedavra curses. It is there. Okay, this is what you have. This is the thing that Voldemort is chasing, right? That kind of bravery you can get when you're immortal, right? Like fuck it, I could step into danger no matter what because I could be born again.
That's
So
right.
this is
That's right.
so
You
we
can't get
see
rid of me.
Fox, and we learn a lot of interesting thing here because though we're seeing the magic here happening, we're seeing a type of magic that we didn't even know that we didn't even understand it, right? That it becomes something bigger than what it is. That Voldemort is attempting to come back to life by draining the life forces of someone else. That through someone else, and he would come back, I guess, even younger. At the time, and this is something that he's able to do at 16. This is something
Right.
that he's thinking about, and we don't even realize how advanced this level of magic is. But to me, that stuck out to me that at 16 years old, you were trying to do this. So this is why I thought Draco was even more dangerous because I'm just like, is this the path this idiot gonna go to? Like, this is
But he
not
didn't have.
okay.
But see, Draco did not have Tom Riddle's talent. So
Well, true.
even though he had Tom Riddle's enmity for people, and even though he had hostility towards certain people, he didn't have Tom Riddle's talent, and he didn't have Tom Riddle's drive. Because remember,
That's it.
Tom Riddle is a walking, well, not at this point walking, but throughout Tom Riddle's life, he is so angry at the hand he has been dealt from his father to the whole thing and to being in that orphanage. So, but we don't, right now, all we see is a 16-year-old Tom Riddle with nowhere else to go. So even though he unleashes this basilisk and he does this thing, when they start talking about closing the school down, boyfriend is like, oh, this can't be happening. This cannot be happening because I don't have anywhere to go. And I cannot. So he's gonna quickly, throw the shade and blame on Hagrid, so that he can to try to make sure we get rid of Hagrid, the school can remain open, and I don't have to go back to the orphanage or whatever it is that I'm going back to. So, but Draco doesn't have anywhere near. Neither does Lucius, for that matter. But we really see inside of Draco, right? Yeah. Draco is like, he's just the kind of bully, call people names. You throw weight around that's not rightfully mine. Oh, if it's not 2020. Draco, that's all he knows to do. And he doesn't have the drive to really, thank God, put this in the kind of thing that Riddle does. He has the drive and the talent to do the kind of evil that he is up to.
Deb, you just said something to me that made me think of something. So it goes back to how people are applying magic in this world to help out their circumstances. I know he can't do magic. Supposedly can't do magic outside of school, but the magical world doesn't have any exception for someone like Tom, right? That he's going back to this poor orphanage, whatever the case may be, and he can't even use magic to save himself or better his condition. But though he's able, and that I think is crazy.
And I think it causes him to steer that into like hurting things. Remember that things are happening at the orphanage that they think he did, but they can't really prove it.
Well, we know he did things. We would find out later on that he's already found that his ability.
Right.
Whether,
we don't know any of that now.
We don't know that now, but right now we know that he was capable of putting something of himself. We don't even know the name for it yet. He has the ability to put something of himself in that diary.
Right.
And for him to pull it out when he is able to find someone that he can influence. And I think it's interesting that I'm wondering, of course, for the story, it makes sense that he chooses Ginny. But also, what is going on with Ginny at that time? She's feeling isolated. She's got this mad crush on Harry Potter. He's not paying her any attention. So, she is she's easy picking.
She's vulnerable, yeah.
But there's also that other thing that Ron is facing also, right? So far we don't see her with any friends, but she's facing that situation Ron faced the year before. Constantly getting hand-me-downs, feeling left out and unnoticed in this family. It's hard to make an impression on this family, within this family, right? Because you have older, and she's the only girl. And Mrs. Weasley, God bless her soul, doesn't seem like a sort of a girly type of woman. Not to say she's manly, but she doesn't seem like the kind of, a lot of her attention seems to be constantly focused on the boys because they're drawing her attention away no matter what. And she's not working, particularly now.
By the time you get to that last kid, you got that many.
You know what I mean? That one practically takes care of itself, right?
Exactly.
Isn't that how it works, right? The first one, you're all loving and doting over that one. He gets everything. She gets everything. The best diapers, the gets whatever. The next one, the last one, by the time you get to 7, they get a paper towel. Girl, like, look, you can run around without it. You can run around without any diapers per day. You'll be cool. So, I mean, there are these complex issues that are coming out again, where that you don't often find in a children's book that is being so vividly described. But Rowling is so, whether it's keen or smart, not to name these things. No one ever speaks to these things and to say, this is what is, that this is, she is feeling, because Tom describes the situation as her sniffling and as her basically, oh my God, I got to go around the dreary teenage life, right? Gotta hear some little girl's nonsense. He describes it this way. But we as readers, as adults, know that, no, this is really important because she was almost on the path of suicide because she describes, like, something is happening to me and I don't know what it is. I think I get losing my mind.
That's also like her adolescence, and it's also, she has been wanting to go to this school so long. She's watched her brothers go off every year. She has wanted to be a part of that. She just thinks it looks so romantic in the, generic romantic side of things. It looks like such a great place to go off and be. And then you get there and it doesn't exactly happen the way you think it's going to happen, because she hasn't had that we know of in the text. We don't see any opportunities where Ginny is interacting with other girls. We don't know that she knows how to make friends that aren't already part of her family. So you can see where the isolation comes in, and the fact that she is a sitting target for the likes of a Voldemort that would utilize, take advantage of the fact that she is so isolated and hasn't quite found her niche yet.
Yeah, that spoke to my soul. That whole scene, when we got into the chamber and when I saw, I was just like, oh wow, sir, y'all out here, y'all are not playing out here.
Yeah.
And again, I get the sensation. I remember getting the sensation is that here is J.K. Rowling supposedly giving us a children's book, but it doesn't feel. I don't feel like a child. You know what I mean? Like these are not warm, fuzzy feeling. Even though we get a nice, neat conclusion at the end, because Dumbledore keeps talking to Harry. Right? Something else is happening here. And here we see, yet again, interesting, like Harry faced death yet again at the school, right? He was on the brink of death, right? And Dumbledore, directly in the first book and indirectly in the second book, saves his life. He's faced Voldemort directly again, come into competition, had a conversation with him, and he knows, but even though I think we said that we didn't know, I think we should have been clued in, because we were aware from the first book that Voldemort was obsessed with coming back alive,
Yes.
He needed a body of some sort. What threw me off with the second book was the timeline. I was like, why would you come back as a child though? As a 16-year-old, when before you wanted a host, you wanted a body to, you were attempting to consume, you couldn't live within another body normally. You needed a stone to sort of like give you, straighten you back to some capacity, whatever the case may be. But as always, Harry is in tight spots. Harry gets out with a sword. He blinds the basilisk, eventually kills the basilisk. No, Fox blinds the basilisk. He kills the basilisk. And he decided on instinct, his Deb's favorite word, Harry is a reactor. He decides to stab the book, the diary, which he realized it's problematic that the diary is coming out. And Voldemort gives him important information. He tells him, I'm half-blood like you, and I have changed my name. At this point, I had already been thinking about changing my name to Voldemort, which I think is either theft of death or fly from death, I think it is. It is French.
Doesn't he say that he was already actually going by that name with his closest circle?
Right, that was the name he was stylizing himself as.
Yeah.
As this sort of thing. So he had been. So at this point already, we realized that this looming figure that we see in the beginning book that attempted to kill 3 people, triple homicide, wipe out a whole family. I mean, you could laugh, but it is what it is. Like, in many ways, but it is in many ways. It's almost like I saw this rather interestingly with that other children's book, with that stealing the copycat, the Hunger Games, where we are talking about brutality, violence, and in some ways we're trying to make it like it's not what's happening. And a friend read the book and she was just like, oh, those District 1 and District 2 people was so crazy, and look at them, they're corrupted because they're trying to fight. I'm just like, but isn't that the rule of the game? This is the rule of the game for everyone, right? That you have to be a trained fighter. You're sending children. Nothing is wrong with District 1 and District 2. The problem is that everybody else is buying into this whole system. Can't blame District 1 and District 2 trying to live and eat. So here you have these complex issues that are happening, these very violent things that are happening, but somehow we try to think of the good overcoming evil idea when it is problematic for everyone. So Harry gets his information but he is saved, and I mean, considering, these are he has faced Voldemort in capacity I don't even think Voldemort has even attempted to. People don't just generally, well, I don't know actually. To put this point, we don't know, but supposedly this formidable wizard, Harry, is taking him on at every chance he gets, like boldly, right? He doesn't have a plan. He's just like, we're gonna go down there, we're gonna wing it, we're gonna see what's gonna happen. This is Harry's plan.
Right.
So
I'm just gonna react to whatever they throw at me.
Whatever's gonna throw at me, right? Like, like we have to we gotta fix this, we gotta save something, because in many ways I think he recognizes that in Voldemort's return and survival, our return is going to upset his world. Because last time this man was in the world, he took everything away from me. And, I need to do something that this is important for me in some whatever way. That's why I said that it's a personal purpose sometimes, that I don't necessarily think Harry is necessarily acting a lot of times for the good of the whole magical community, because in many ways the whole magical community has sat on their ass basically and then expect this situation to resolve itself somehow by someone else. But Harry needs this man to not be a thing. Like, sir, you gonna fuck up this little shit that I have, because this world is the only place where I'm a person. Because going back to Privet Drive is problematic. It is literally abuse.
Which is what, that's one we talked a little bit the last time about these mirrors between Harry and Tom Riddle. Tom Riddle's like, no, I'll throw Hagrid under the bus or under the spider or under anything because I don't have anywhere else to go. And Harry is like, well, I'm going to go down in this chamber and do whatever I got to do, because I can't have you messing up my world, because this is the only place that I'm treated like a human being. So again, you have those kind of parallels between them. So
Right, but
and I think yeah, it's also interesting that Tom Riddle's, we see that he's left these objects around, and right now we just know about the diary, and we're going to be learning about more of these objects as we go down the road.
And not to mention, every time, Harry keeps learning more and more about Voldemort and what he means to the wizarding community, so that it becomes more urgent that something be done. And it is most personal. It's most personal to him, because
right now it's very personal.
Yeah, not that he didn't do.
I don't know if it's urgent until it becomes the problem is there.
Right. I don't think it really becomes urgent until the very, very end when he learns that one of them must die.
But he's given that purpose.
But he knows even now that, this is, probably bigger than he ever imagined it could be. And he's constantly learning more and more. Like, he had no idea, nobody even wants to say his name. And he's like, what's that all about? I mean, just like little things like that, he's picked up and learned on the way. So I think it's, really, it affects him differently, because of who he is, because of, what happened between the two of them. And I think we're going to start to see, we will start to see the effect that it has on Harry, how similar they truly are when he starts to learn more than what he is only told by Voldemort in this book as Tom Riddle, through the memory. Well, haven't you noticed that we're alike, and we're both this, and everything. So he sees that now, and he doesn't like it, because he knows that this is a dark wizard, and we have to remember that he's still struggling with the fact that he was maybe going to be put in Slytherin. So it's like he just keeps getting more and more information that's telling him he's more and more like Lord Voldemort. So that's hard for him to digest.
But Deb mentioned, it goes to what Deb is saying, the parallels. But as we are seeing, and we would later learn, that at each of these moments, Harry is making a different choice.
Yeah.
That both options are being presented to him clearly.
Right.
He's choosing not to accept these things, right? That he is able to see. He's able to see in whatever moment he is, there is a clarity of him as to whether what is right or wrong, or what is not the right approach to take to such situation.
But Harry doesn't always see that in himself.
He doesn't see that.
We get to see it as a reader, and we see the differences, but he focuses on the similarities, which also becomes problematic later.
Well, people are telling Harry, and Harry's just not paying attention, right? The hat tells him, you didn't want to go in Slytherin, right? You asked to go in Gryffindor. But but we will come to that. I think this will go back to when we get to the 6th book, which I'm eagerly anticipating. That thing. So, is there any sort of, Janina has the agenda? Is there anything we sort of left out without Dobby? We have to conclude the situation with Dobby. And again, let me just say, when they come back out of the chamber secret, everybody just sitting around there. Nobody went to look for Ginny Weasley. No man did.
I just,
no
they did. They did too.
They did not.
What? When you say that no one went to go look for her, what is that? What are you talking about?
No adult went to go look for Ginny Weasley.
No adult went to go look. Okay, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that right. Okay. Well, it's not about Ginny. Ginny's fine, and it's all about Harry. It is Harry Potter after all. I just hope, what, honestly,
they didn't even notice that 2 of the students went missing, and one of them is related to her. So we really need to go find these.
That's not true. They do notice. Jenny comes out and gets taken to the hospital wing. And then Ron, her parents are there. And then remember, Ron gets stuck with Gilderoy. And they actually come, Ron, they were like some rocks fell and he had to move them and make way. They actually had to go back and get them. So they didn't know. I mean, they knew Ginny was missing, obviously, but they didn't know that Ron was missing at the time that Harry comes back. No, wait, back up.
No, I think what happened.
They all come back together.
They come back together, but obviously by the time while Harry and while they're all down in the chamber, somebody has realized that all of them are missing, because when they get back up to Dumbledore's, remember Dumbledore is back. He has been sent away and now he's back. Mm-hmm. And the Weasley family, the parents are there. They've been summoned to the school.
Yeah. Well, because they think that Ginny's dead, remember McGonagall says she's been taken. But beyond all that, you're right. It's all problematic because these adults, listen, the adults in Harry Potter never truly behave in what we think of in terms of teachers, one, and two, adults, period. I mean, they very rarely behave that way unless it's like some kind of weird punishment. And speaking of punishment, this is just something that I thought of, on round 20,004 of Chamber of Secrets. So there's this running theme throughout Harry Potter that, oh my gosh, we better not get caught doing A, B, C, or D or we're going to get expelled. Nobody ever gets expelled. And they never realize this. It's like there's this constant fear of someone getting expelled. And I was trying to remember.
Hagrid.
Like, it's been 50 years. Right. No one's been expelled since Hagrid. That was 50 years ago. But there's this constant, oh my gosh, I'm going to be expelled. Nobody ever really gets in trouble. Like, they really don't. And time again, we saw it with Tom Riddle, even though he didn't get busted. So that's not a good comparison. But here at the end of this, Harry and Ron are worried, and Ginny, that they're going to be in trouble. But ultimately, what happens? Ron and Harry are awarded the special awards and given 200 points each to Gryffindor. Right. No one gets in trouble. No one really. I mean,
no one is doing this sort of things that.
But they're constantly breaking rules.
Yes, but they're breaking rules and saving lives, though. I mean. If you want to break rules for that. Because
I know. I guess break big rules and do big things. It's just interesting that there's this constant. But so usually you're afraid of something, especially as a child, when you see someone else punished in a certain way. There's always a looming fear that something might happen. This is the rule and the consequence is this. But when you continuously listen, if George and Fred Weasley haven't been expelled from Hogwarts, nobody's getting expelled. Nobody. So it's kind of like a little bit of a hole for me that there's this constant, oh my gosh, especially for Hermione. And we know that she's a rule follower. But seriously, you're a very smart little girl. Nobody's getting in trouble. And no one's been expelled from Hogwarts in 50 years. So stop saying, oh my gosh, we're going to get expelled.
The stakes for Hermione and Harry are a little bit bigger and different, right?
But even Ron and Harry think they're going to get expelled when they take the car. They're expecting that when they show up and they end up in Dumbledore's office, that because they arrived at Hogwarts with the car, the flying Muggle car, that they're going to be expelled. Well, you know what? They probably should have been, but of course they weren't.
I think that reminds me of how that other old trope that Hogwarts is the safest place to be.
Thank you.
We just an hour and a half showing that Hogwarts is probably the least safe you could be in the magical world.
The only safe place seems to be Privet Drive.
Just like the oh my god, we're gonna get expelled is running through. Then, oh my gosh, nothing can happen to us as long as we're at Hogwarts.
I mean, we might only die 5 times over, but we're going to make it.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I don't think it's so much a hole in the plot as it is a little bit of irony that we keep talking about, we're going to get expelled for doing this, but it never happens because the things that we're doing, if we hadn't done them, people would have died or we would have died or somebody would have been in worse straits. And in Hogwarts, we keep saying, "Oh, Hogwarts is so safe," but it's obviously not. It's just we barely are living through these things by the skin of our teeth.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. I mean, reading the book, that didn't really so much so bother me because, like I said, Harry kept doing great and magical things, right? These big things. But I think what surprised me is that the gravity of what he's doing seems to only be comprehended by Dumbledore.
Well, that's because as of right, right now.
No, that's not what I mean. At the end of the day, Dumbledore sees a bigger picture, right? He's playing 3D chess.
Right.
But at the end of the day, what we can see happen is that Harry went into a teacher attempted to kill a student in the first book to steal a sorcerer's stone, kill some unicorn up in the thing, and Dumbledore doesn't strike as the person to say it's not Voldemort to have done it, right? A teacher who has been around them, who had Voldemort, the most dangerous wizard in the whole place, on his head, right? Harry faced him and dealt with him. Bypassed all the teacher's security. Oh shoot! I knew I forgot something. I forgot the quiz again. Oh my god! I am a horrible
You are
host.
fired.
I know. I'm sorry.
You're gonna get
I'm gonna get expelled too, right? I'm gonna get expelled. But it's supposed to be this safe place. In the second book, we have a basilisk, a mythical creature, even within the magical world, right? This is a creature that barely exists, right? Someone only killing all the chickens or the cock, you know what I mean? And they make a good meal. Let me just say, I would have been pissed off for just that. It is existent, running around the school, kidnap a student, attempted to drain her life force to create a new person, no matter the case to me. Harry did all of that. But my thing is just that why everyone is just pretending like Harry just went under the school and looked for something and came back. Like, that's not what happened here. Like, crazy thing has happened. But no one seemed to be taking these things seriously or understanding the gravity of these situations, except Dumbledore. And he even understands this even greater, we will later on find out. That this means, because these are big things, because he's literally facing Voldemort. Right?
Well,
and when
I think at some point, Voldemort points out that he's mostly talking about the diary, because when the Weasleys, when Mr. and Mrs. Weasley want to know, well, what did Ginny have to do with this? And then Voldemort explains about Tom Riddle and the diary, and then he became Lord Voldemort, and that but basically we need to send Miss Weasley to the hospital wing, and then they just stop talking about it.
Yeah, even that is surprising to me. And again, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. Yet another year, one other teacher endangered the lives of students. Okay, 2 years running, and apparently, and as we will come to realize that this is a running joke now. Like, we're gonna have like the defense against the dark arts. It really should be the defense against the dark arts teacher, because they're kind of problem. Like,
at least first book.
Well, for some people, the third book is the same thing, right? Because we're gonna have it.
It's just that he's not working with Voldemort. But,
exactly.
But I think that it does kind of bring home the point, and you wonder if this is the point where, because Dumbledore, I'm not sure, has worked it all out in his head yet. He knows that Voldemort is not gone. He knows Voldemort is out there trying to figure out a way to come back.
Of this.
Right. He has proof of it. But he doesn't, and I think that we get, especially from the sixth book, that he hasn't all worked it out how Voldemort has done what he has done.
Right. And that matters.
He's not really one step. He's been lucky. He's not really all that many steps ahead of what Voldemort is doing.
I mean, I read that differently. I think he knows a little bit, but you might be right in terms of, like, he's not figured. He does present in the sixth book that he's because in the sixth book, I think he's looking for particular information,
Yes, yes.
right? He's
I
looking
think
for a
he's got
piece
a
of
big
information.
picture of what he knows. He knows what he knows what Tom Riddle's talents were
Right.
at the school, because he says so in this book. How talented he was, how he had traveled far and wide to become so engrossed in the dark arts. He knows this much about Voldemort. And then there's some more things he learns in the fourth book about how Voldemort has reconstituted. So I think that he doesn't know the whole thing at this juncture, at the second book.
Or nor does he have proof really of what it is
Right.
too.
Right.
So he
And
suspects
and he
something,
doesn't
but he
really
doesn't have.
know. He doesn't really know how to fight Voldemort because he doesn't know everything Voldemort is doing yet.
Right. He's still learning as well.
Mm-hmm.
But this is the thing that you see. This is what strikes me is that for someone who you go around and you say he who shall not be named, right? This is the community, whatever the case.
Right.
May be.
Right.
And you would think these people would see this man at every turn, right? But you don't deal with his ex-followers that are around this. They occupy influential space in society.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
And so I don't know how much you fear this man. Secondly, 2 years running, there is literal proof that this thing exists. But we're going to find out later on that they keep thinking, it's not a thing. Like, what is wrong with y'all? This is not a thing. So maybe, I mean, this speaks to times, right, where there's literally threats aboard, and we don't want to accept the threat because to accept the threat, to acknowledge it, is inconvenient for how we're living our current life, right? Like, just like, oh, I can't deal with a virus now because I want to get my hair did. So I need to act like this is not a thing. So I want to live my life and enjoy the things I have without Voldemort because I want to believe he doesn't exist, despite all of the proof that this thing exists. So, it's a rather interesting thing that I find that, that for me, when I was reading the book, I always look forward to Dumbledore's conversation, being that I know that this is going to be a series, because he is the only one who seems to understand what exactly had just happened. But everyone just sort of been like, oh my God, we're happy, they're alive. Ooh, moving on. Feast time, food time. But Dumbledore is just like, wait, Harry. And, like, here are the things. This is not like, yeah, you need some explanation. That you need to understand what has happened to you and why this thing is somewhat almost unique that it is happening to you. Because in many ways, we find out that people dismiss them, These children are just wandering around the school. They're just getting into little mishap and mayhem. They're dealing with the Dark Lord. This isn't little mischief and mayhem, okay? This is the existential threat that your modern day society is built up around, right? You move from Grindelwald to Voldemort, and you're dealing with a post-Voldemort world. You know what I mean? And it seemed to be like, I don't know, like, y'all keep propping up, but it's the same thing with the real world, right? We keep producing these conditions to prop up these evil, wicked people, but somehow we're not addressing that madness. So,
that's right. And then we're just going to try to quickly move past it so that I can get back to what I'm more comfortable with until there's no more moving past it and we are at war, which, when we get to the end of the book, the end of the series. But I think you're absolutely right. I think that they, it's, we need more proof. We need more this. We need more that. But everybody else is perfectly content to move on. Okay, the children are okay. Nobody got hurt other than, so the people are awake now. Everybody that was petrified, they got the, what was it that they made with the
mandrakes?
The mandrake. They made the
I was uncomfortable about the mandrakes. Okay, just put that
out. Realz doesn't like, first of all, that they're called ugly babies.
Right.
And they're an actual thing in folklore.
Cut them up and stew them. I'm this is some Charles Adams, crap here.
Exactly. They get acne, so they're like teenagers. This is not like, like.
Okay.
They're irritable.
So now we're gonna just wake up everybody, and then we're gonna, we'll have the feast and we'll leave the school. So you're right. I mean, a lot of these things are just pushed under the rug, but they are not pushed that far because they're gonna be right back out.
they're gonna be right back out. And for me, I'm still grappling with the fact, like, how can I even pretend this is not a thing?
I
How
know.
can you pretend that this is not a thing because of the element? Because this is what I keep going back to. Why I keep hopping on the magic. Because literally everyone is walking around with a weapon of mass destruction
and not using it.
And you know what I mean? And it just, what withholds somebody from not using it is, personal choice, basically. You know what I mean? Like, you're living in a world where things that you would ordinarily think are impossible are actually possible. And you're dealing with someone who is even defying those impossible things that you think about. So,
Right.
things. So, we're at the end of book 2, and we end with our friend Dobby, our wonderful house slave. And he's saved by a little white boy. Wonderful. He's saved with, and that is I remember reading that was such a striking scene for me. And that in the Malfoys and just how, I mean, of course, he's played towards being evil. But to me, I got the sense that this wasn't just evil. Y'all are sadistic. Y'all are on some other level. That there is no redeeming to me. People like this and it's one of those things that I see rather interesting in J.K. Rowling's work. That she's showing us different levels of evilness, not just traditional. Because typically in children novels, you would see someone being quote unquote naughty, and you would see evil. Like, like, we're going to kill everyone. That's evil. But Rowling is showing us different level of evil. And in many ways, we are generally kind of comfortable with many of these levels of evilness until it comes to it's directly affecting the people that we like. But she's showing us that the evil is happening to everybody, right? Like, that's why a lot of people ignore Moaning Myrtle. But Moaning Myrtle is being harassed the same way Draco is harassing Hermione.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Hermione, Harry and Ron and Hermione becomes friends because of a bathroom situation. They said something and she went into a bathroom crying and was nearly killed.
Yep.
And
at safe old Hogwarts.
At safe old Hogwarts, exactly. You know what I mean? Like, we can just bring in 2 trolls into this school.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? That unbeknownst to students. But so Dobby is saved, and we realize that Dobby is. We know Dobby is capable of magic, but we see Dobby is capable of battle magic in some respect. That he can, defend the things that he like, and he's happy, and he's forever grateful to Harry. That he is happy that Harry Potter is able to save him. That through Harry, he receives his freedom because of the sock incident. And, Malfoy disregarding whatever it is, like, and throwing it to the house elf, rather. And, as we meet more magical creatures, we're going to see how constantly, even though these people are logical, sentient beings able to understand languages, able to understand the world around them, have complex emotions, that they're still being seen as treated and drawn and placed in subservient roles to wizards, even though they receive freedom, because at no point Dobby never changes, right? Dobby's behavior changed to a certain master. He transferred the obsession and loyalty from one master to another. Just one doesn't abuse him.
Yeah.
But in the end,
think that's worth exploring, because we see a hierarchy of creatures.
Mm-hmm.
We've been seeing it, but we haven't really fully explored it, and we won't until we get to the 5th book, I think. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
But even then, that doesn't even explode. When we get there, that doesn't even explode either, right? That isn't
we see the actual. Remember, they got a statue.
Right, there's a statue exists.
There's a statue that tells you that this is what we think. This is what we believe.
So this goes back to my idea about with the Ron and the Weasleys and the ideas about mudbloods, etc. Is that these ideas have been permeated within the society.
Yes.
And a lot of people are far more comfortable with it than they're willing to say. Mm-hmm. Because this is why there isn't a direct reaction to this problem, right? That we see this in other.
the most you get is people saying, "I don't treat people this way,"
Right. And
and
you would
I have
get
black friends.
right.
right.
I don't. You don't
The
get anybody
usual
that works
suspects
against the
speak.
system.
The
Yeah.
usual suspects speak because one of the things that is thrown at the Weasley, particularly Arthur Weasley, is that he's muggle loving. They don't
Yes.
say mudblood, but he's muggle loving. So that is
Right.
seen as an obsession with him
Right.
that is traumatic. And that even gets annoying to me because as much as he's obsessed with these people, he still don't even learn anything. I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? Like,
Right.
it isn't that hard to understand how people work. Like, you literally live in the same world as they do, right? To go to the
Yeah.
hospital, you literally
But
have to go into
he tends to be obsessed with the things that they use. He's
right, but
not
I'm
so. He's not that interested in them as people. He's not
right.
interested in as other human beings. He's interested in the things that they use that he doesn't need to use because of magic.
He's interested in in the sense that how their world operates. He's not
Yeah.
interested in them. He's interested in their
No.
world.
Right.
How they figure out without magic. That's true. That is true. But he doesn't hold any animosity to them as
No.
creatures that and nor
And
does
he
he advocate for there to be
demise.
um
Right.
eyes and so forth. But so we're at the end of the Book of Secrets. Ladies, are there anything summed up so far that we loved? That we
Well, again, thank you, Deb, for letting us know what this book truly meant.
I
Because
know, right?
I
It
just
changed the whole world.
I appreciate it on such a different level. I mean,
Well,
it does mean so much.
Obviously, from the discussion, it was always there. I think it was just like when pointed in that direction, everybody was
Mhm.
like, "Oh yeah, of course," and then
Right.
But that's probably a product of going to so many Harry Potter conferences for the last number of years. But I just think it's really interesting to go back and revisit it, especially after
Right.
after the things are played out in the series.
I know we're coming up on your favorite book.
Book
I can't wait.
Girl,
I feel like you're gonna have
I've
so
got
much
my
to say. It's
Okay,
gonna
so
be like
so
5
Debbie said in the
podcasts,
agenda.
and I'm
Debbie
fine
said in
with
the
that.
agenda for
I
book
got my
3.
shirt. I have I actually have kitchen canisters based on the Prisoner of Azkaban.
Oh wow.
I got Harry Potter merch based on Prisoner of Azkaban.
But you know what's funny is that I've reread the series so many times as we all have, and I have seen these elements in books, right? Like, oh yeah, I know this comes back later on, okay. But the way in which Deb put it in terms of like, this is the key to understanding the whole series, I was like, oh my god, you're right. Like, it just never, like,
It never
all of
dawned
this
on
thing, it never dawned on me to look at the book this way, right? Because to me, it just seemed like a placeholder to a certain extent. It was just the second year, right? It's just like, oh, another
Right.
year. It's just building the tension.
Mhm.
But
Right.
what was it really
Damn,
into that
it's
this
so
book?
important.
And
Yeah,
I
this book is
really do think that was deliberate. I do think that was a deliberate misdirection, the same way that Austin uses misdirection to make you think somebody's a good guy and then you find out they're not, or vice versa. I think she deliberately had the reader focus. This whole thing was mapped out. So I think she deliberately had the reader focused on the plot as opposed to all of those various elements that
the
were going
symbolism, right?
back. Yeah.
Oh.
But we were thinking about, because usually we see we didn't see the symbolism. We just saw it as what do they call them, nest eggs,
Yeah.
where you would see things that would play out in the same book,
Easter eggs.
right?
Like
Easter egg, right?
Yeah.
We saw them as Easter eggs, perhaps. I don't really call them that. I just call them, clues, because I'm a mystery reader.
They're clues. Yeah.
But
they're clues.
we typically saw the clues helping play out in the book itself, right? Not necessarily in seeing it back. And even as we reread it, we don't ever think of it in any way. I never even thought of the book as any of the book as being some sort of significant thing other than a plot point, right? Like, he comes back, Harry meets him here for the first time. Oh, the diary. Okay, the diary was a thing. Well, at least in my head, when I got to the diary in book 6, well, it's destroyed, right? Yeah, moving on. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
but when I saw that thing and I reread the book, I was like, oh my God, like Dumbledore literally mentions Horcruxes. He literally says, except that word. He said, there is a part of him in you. But like Harry, I ignored that shit. I was like, okay, whatever.
Well,
Cool,
and
right?
because we learn similarities, so we just kind of take it at face value.
Right.
Right. And we're gonna see that play out itself. So this was very.
I want to keep you true, Realz. I'm assuming that the question you did not answer was part of the things to get to the stone, right?
Yes, that's what I was talking about. Yes.
Okay, so I put in the work.
You put in the work?
I put in the work.
Oh my God, and you didn't tell me? Okay. All right. So which means I'm going to figure this out today. I'm going to do this right after we get off of here. And I'm going to see whether we got the same answer.
Okay.
So you're going to give your answer?
No, I can't talk about it then.
Okay.
So actually, you have to freaking do it.
Yes, you have to do it.
And
Deb, I expect you to remind me. And every day we talk about, old age, Deb. You talk about my memory might be going, and here I am relying upon you to do the memory, like a man, right? Woman, remember this, okay, lady? But
okay. I'm not like Gilderoy. I don't have proficiency with memory charm.
Okay.
Listen, I'm going to hold you accountable.
Can we talk about Gilderoy? Gilderoy was looking to kill those children. Gilderoy was really saying, your bones will be left in here. Can we talk about that? Like.
Right.
So we will open next podcast with the riddle.
Okay.
And then we will jump deep into The Prisoner of Azkaban. Oh, I'm excited. I like this book.
Absolutely.
All right, guys.
Oh.
All right. It was awesome as always.
As always. No final word on this book. We have dealt with it. But you know what? This will be a book we have to continue talking about anyway, right? Because
we'll come back.
We'll be back with like, oh my God, this is mentioned here. So I hope those who are listening that you're enjoying our series so far, that you are paying attention. You're doing the homework like I'm supposed to be doing. And I got to write what 16 inches essay. Whew. You know what? That was the thing that scared me the most in this thing. That essays are counted not by words but by inches. I was like, this is cruel. Okay, this is some kind of crazy.
Right, real big.
Like Ron.
Yes, be like Ron.
Like Ron.
So, folks, don't forget to comment. We're on YouTube now. We're able to get on YouTube, so it's easier to comment on YouTube there. But leave a rating on Apple, leave a rating on Podbean, or wherever you get us, and spread it and tell your friends. Because you know what I've noticed, even the laziest takes are becoming a thing on Twitter, and I'm just like, we should be trending. We are that good.
We are.
We are that good.
I mean, by book 7, we need J.K. Rowling to come out here and
the word. Yeah.
J.K. Rowling needs to come on here and have a
Maybe
talk
if we
with
start
us.
tweeting her every single day, starting now, by the time we get to 7, she'll be annoyed enough to say fine. All right, guys. Have
and
a
JK,
good
if you come on, I
week.
promise I won't mention the Grindelwald series. I promise I won't mention that Hot Mess of a series. The Beast of wherever they were from. I won't mention the series.
Just so we're clear.
All righty.
Have a good day, ladies, and enjoy.
Take care.
Mischief